if we wrote a newsletter that was purely generated by AI, and in that newsletter, we're trying to convey emotion and feeling about the pain points of being an IT director, or trying to really create a human quality to that communication. But it's all generated from AI, and then we send it out as though it's written from us. There's a dishonesty there that is very specific. All of a sudden, we have outsourced our emotions and our feelings and our human connection to some AI that can't feel anything.
So for me, myself, I'm more of the physical security-minded person, I think, of the group. That's been ingrained in me from, my history with the Marine Corps. Like, that's where I am, where I came from. But you guys are the ones that developed this AI policy for our business here at Ambit. So I'd love to hear, why you did it, how you did it, and what kind of drove those things. So let's when you guys want to jump into how we did that?
Yeah. So I think what we should probably define first is what makes AI different than other technologies and why we would need to create the policy to begin with. So I'm just going to read this one little section of the policy that we created, and then we can kind of discuss it. But it says, there have been countless technological advancements over the years, but generative AI is unique in its ability to not simply inform, but to compose human-like text, speech, images, video, etc., and convincingly impersonate human interaction. A primary goal of many companies is to eliminate human engagement in systems and communications to save money and be more efficient. So, yeah, really just trying to highlight what makes generative AI so unique. It's not just a way to query information. It's actually presenting it back to you in many forms to try to impersonate a human being. And I think we as a company see some pitfalls that could create in interacting with our own clients using AI purely.
So Ryan, you were kind of tasked with developing our policy for AI. And it started out as this practical thing. Mm-hmm. And then you began to ask some more difficult questions, some really interesting questions. And we started down this journey. And now it's not just the who's buying which ChatGPTs or whatever. Right. Now it's how is this impacting our relationships with our customers? Because this is something that is massively disrupting everything, just the industry, however you want to call it. This is a massive thing, and everybody is talking about the pros and how useful it is. And I was listening to a podcast this morning on, I think she said, if you're in marketing and you're not using AI, you're screwed. I think that was literally what she was saying. Everybody's like, you have to be using this. Yeah. And we are all using it right now. And with that is you asked some hard questions. And so I'd love for us to get into some of those questions and what started you down this journey.
Totally. Well, and I think we should say this on the onset as well. We as a company are pro AI. Like
100%.
Yep. We find a ton of useful benefits from it, and we really do want to leverage it for the purpose of creating better client relationships and improving their client experience. Not simply to make our lives easier. It has to actually, in the end, give value to the client. So we are pro AI.
100%.
Definitely want to say that. But I think as we wrote this policy, we realized some things that could really be dangerous in talking about these. And I think it really comes down to one of our core values, which is honesty and integrity matter. So the question we began asking ourselves, you mentioned marketing. Let's just jump to the extreme. And I say the extreme, but many companies are already doing this exact thing daily. If we as a company wrote a newsletter, that was air quotes for anyone who's looking at listen to audio only. If we wrote a newsletter that was purely generated by AI, And in that newsletter, we're trying to convey emotion and feeling about maybe the pain points of being an IT director, or trying to really create a human quality to that communication. But it's all generated from AI, and then we send it out as though it's written from us. There's a dishonesty there that is very specific, I think. And I think something that's very dangerous as we focus on our clients and really connecting human to human with them, and them knowing that we care about them and them knowing that we care about their problems. All of a sudden we have outsourced our emotions and our feelings and our human connection to some AI that can't feel anything, right? So yeah, I think those are some of the questions that we started talking about. And if you zoom out further, I mean, there's a line in here. Let's see. Basically, oh yeah.
And this is the policy that you guys wrote that you're reading from, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we wrote this. One of the things that we talk about in here is human emotions are always real and cannot be artificially generated. Caring about people cannot be artificially generated. Therefore, we prohibit using AI to generate content that conveys emotion or feeling, as if this would be dishonest and lacking integrity to allow AI to falsely represent our feelings.
Yeah. I think this is so applicable to our business specifically, and that's why we wrote this, but because we are a small business and we're built on those relationships. We've been doing this for, almost, the business has been here for almost 20 years at this point, and it's been about developing those relationships and those connections with the customers that we serve, and we view that as a real opportunity to serve them. So for us, it's like people know that when they call in, that if they hit the accounting line, like they're going to reach Ryan, or if they call our help desk line, they're going to reach one of our help desk employees. People know who we are by name, and so we don't want to in any way, like you said, falsely represent our own personal feelings or intentions or communications. And so really it's a big driver of just making sure that we're keeping those relationships front and center in what we're doing and when we go to serve our customers.
And I brought this up at church. I was in a small group with some other guys, and I brought this concept up, and there was not agreement in the room. I think this is not something that I've heard other companies talk about. This is not something I've heard agreement on. But the more we dug into it, I think the stronger we felt about it, which was, if you try to use AI to replace your own communication and your own expression of emotion, that's deceptive. That's not a legitimate form of communication. And I think for us, like you mentioned, the small business side of it, look, there's companies out there who have already basically reduced the human-to-human connection of their company to zero. We all know it. And we're in the telecom industry. Look, we can point out big players that I've tried to call recently. You cannot talk to a human.
Right.
Like, it is absolutely impossible to talk to a human.
Yeah.
And there's also no email address that you could talk to a human. If you get on the website, you do a chat, that's not a human either. There is no human-to-human connection with that company.
100%. They're using AI on every channel to how can I put an AI bot in this channel to eliminate human-to-human communication.
Right.
That is the goal. Like that's like, how are you improving efficiency? I can, now I don't need as many people on the help desk because I've got AI. And so now you're asking a question I'm not hearing anybody else ask is like, whoa, well, what if let's take a step back here. This has other implications too. If somebody calls our number, they Google Ambit Solutions and call our number, and if we've replaced our help desk with a chatbot, like what does that say about us? Because we, like you said, we are a small business. We are built on, one of our culture fundamentals is remembering our customers' names.
Yeah.
Like it's a value to us. Like we want to know our customers by name because, you ask Craig, that's what business is. It's not brands and logos interacting with each other. It's people interacting with people.
That's right.
And you're asking a hard question here that I agree. People are not in agreement of this. Like the marketing world, the thought that you're not going to use AI to pump out all this content is just crazy. Like, what are you thinking? But we're saying customer transparency, customer relationship here, it's always been the priority. And that is still going to continue to be our priority.
Yep.
So I kind of interrupted you, sorry.
No. It makes me think too. We were looking, so we use the Google Workspace suites for our email. Just the other day, they put a new update in there to where, it used to offer like maybe a few words of one line or something to get you started on a response.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Right.
Really cheesy one-liners
Right.
to reply with. Well, now it's like, oh, no, we got this. It'll offer you a full paragraph response. I think that is, in many ways, a great example, a great snapshot of what we just can't do with our clients. And, I mentioned being in those discussions and, people are like, well, I wrote the prompt and I've taught my AI, like how I talk and stuff like that. It's like, at the end of the day, it's just not you. And if you proofread it and you go through all of it and, maybe make edits and change things, that's great. Maybe you can make it sound more like you and you can feel good about that text representing you as a person. But that's what's happening. If you put your signature at the bottom and you're signing off on that, the question is it your true feelings or is it your true voice that you're putting out, or is it AI? And ultimately, that's probably a judgment call for some people in some situations. It'd be hard to put a percentage on, like, look, if AI generated some text for me, is it okay if they generated 50% of it? If AI generated 50% of it and I did the rest of it? Well, those are some of the questions we're trying to answer.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's always going to be, that black and white. But I think what we come to is, look, we have to feel confident in what we're putting out, that it's our own voice and not somebody else's voice.
Absolutely.
So how do we do that?
I do appreciate, going back to the prompt and the email, I do actually appreciate that it does copy their name correctly from their email and put it in. Because for me, I struggle with spelling simple names.
Totally.
That's probably the only way that I use AI. So
I also appreciate that as
Yeah.
somebody whose name is often misspelled in
true.
emails, even though it's right there in all caps.
Yeah.
So I hope that more people use that feature.
Well, okay. And we've talked about this as a company. I went ahead and did it on my own because I felt strongly about it. But on the bottom of my email signature, it does say this is solely human-generated content.
Really?
This is not AI.
Where did you put that? In the signature
Just
line?
right at the bottom of my signature. That has all my contact information, and right below that.
Interesting.
I can't remember exactly how I worded it. We can look it up. But
I get so many emails from you, I just kind of skipped that part.
yeah, totally. I understand. And most people may not even see it. But I find, look, going through your inbox and emailing people back, it's sometimes annoying, but I can't pass off AI as my own voice in an email.
Email's the big one here, though. It's the easiest one to get away with, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
or it's the easiest one to
Get into.
I was like, it's there. It's already there.
It's there.
It's fully integrated.
And let's just address this. We're all getting these. They are entirely AI written emails.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now that like my emails on LinkedIn, I'm just bombarded every day.
Yep.
Like 80% of my emails every day are just immediate deletes because now that my email's out there. And like I said, everybody's using AI to improve efficiency. Man, I can knock out so many of these emails with these AI prompts. And I get that AI written email and I'm repulsed. It is like, it's literally repulsive and it's not winning anybody over.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and that's the thing. It's like you can tell
instantly.
that it's not a human generated email. Like, and that's, you can see those things so clearly. And yeah, email's the easiest one to just like get into and
It's
say,
true.
like Ryan mentioned, I've got 100 emails that I've got to respond to. But when you take a step back and look at it from our perspective, I'm responding to those emails because people are coming to me. They're coming and asking for my help or for Ambit's help.
Yeah.
Why would I offload that to?
They could have went to ChatGPT
They
on
could
their
have gone
own.
to ChatGPT themselves. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
if they're coming to us, I want to be responsible with that and give them my response and my experience and be able to give them that real human connection
Yeah.
and not just be like, yeah, I'm just going to let, AI handle this task for me. And that way I can breeze through my emails and move on with my day. Like those are legitimate connection points with our customers that we should take advantage of. And I don't want to miss those opportunities.
Have y'all seen? So oftentimes we talk about how here AI is this force multiplier, and I did not coin that. Craig did, so I'll give him that credit. Is there? I know Ryan, you kind of skimmed on this. Is there any percentage that you guys feel is acceptable in an email, or are you hard and fast on no? This is 100% me responding.
I think that's a great question, and I don't have the answer to it.
Okay.
But what I think is important is that when you hit send, you know that it's your voice going out. So let's give a scenario here. Like somebody asks for, let's just say, like hypothetically, a schedule of events over the course of a year. Like you're putting together, 10 events over the course of the year, and you just go to AI, you go to any Gemini, whatever, and you say, all right, give me 10 Mondays evenly spaced throughout the year as kind of just a template, and you put that information into the email. That's a great use of AI.
100%.
Like that is purely technical. It's purely like saving you time. There's no emotion connected to it. There's no persuasion connected to it. I would like for you to talk on the persuasion thing at some point.
Man, it's hard. Like it's as far as like writing copyright, website copy, and like what are we going to allow AI to write? Like I'm hearing Ryan bring up these questions and I'm cringing a little bit because like, man, like it writes better than I can. And yet like there's this cringe element on the marketing front. And like, no, everybody's saying to use AI and I am going to be using it, but at what cost? Mm-hmm. And how much of it are we going to be just pumping content? But I mean, the big thing as far as like where my head's at with marketing is this has to be valuable content. It can't be content for content's sake. And also, again, we talked about businesses people to people. Who's interested in just fluff? Like nobody just wants to be thrown data at them or just like a ChatGPT prompted paragraph. Like we're not interested in that. And we're drowning in it. There's just now we're oversaturated with content. The point that we're making and that we're going to lean into is that we're leaning into the human to human communication aspect of it.
That's right.
That's where the value was all along. We are a company built on people talking to people. We're a phone system company. At the end of the day, we're providing people the ability to talk to other people, human to human. And yeah, it's like I was very impressed with this document, this policy, Ryan, because you've asked the hard questions that I don't see anybody else asking. And we are valuing our partners first. Like we're not going to compromise. We're not going to throw them emails. Like that email one is the big one. It's like, yes, we're committing to not sending people ChatGPT prompted email responses. Yeah. Like we're committing to that. People at least deserve to have a human talking to them. But yeah, I'm very impressed with this document, and you kind of had to take us on a journey which is why we're having these conversations. Like we want to go on this journey together and talk about, let's ask these hard questions.
Yeah, you weren't a big fan of the conversation when I first brought it up.
No, man. It's like cringy. That's like, no.
Well, but I think you're right. All these companies pumping out this content, it's just going to become white noise.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very quickly. And I appreciate you diving into this podcast format. I mean, this is new for us at Ambit, but this type of content has become stronger and stronger as a tool because you can't fake this.
Right.
Like, I don't know. There's pretty good AI stuff out there. But ultimately, people are always going to know whether this is real or whether it's not. We can't read this off. I mean, we can't, even if we were the best actors in the world, we couldn't read this off a sheet and fake these emotions and these feelings. This is what is ultimately going to connect. This is going to be the long-term driver of business is human-to-human contact. Sales, I mean, David is in sales. Companies don't sell to other companies. People sell to other people.
Yeah, 100%.
Always. So when you use that as a principle, some of this starts making very clear sense. And you start seeing some real guardrails. Again, I don't know that other people are seeing those yet, but yeah, I want to talk more about it. And I think that's why we're here.
Right.
I think we need to be talking more about these things.
Yeah. I think in my head, you bringing up the sales, as we grow our sales team and we bring on, maybe some younger generation salespeople, how do I be like, hey, we've got to maintain this people to people first. Go see your customers. Write emails based off what you talk to them at a trade show about. Don't just mass pump out emails, right? Because I get those all the time. People wanting the client list from these trade shows. It's like, hey, do you want the client list? Do you want the client list? It's like, no, I'm okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I bought your other competitor's client list already. So that's another one. How do we protect against those younger, hey, I want to just pump and dump all this content into my customer. Hey, let's get away from that. Let's continue to build these relationships. So
Yeah. And that's going to be a differentiator for us as we continue to move forward. Because like you said, it's so out there. It's so, at this point, just like a white noise thing that the more that we lean into that human side connection, the more we're going to stand out for it.
And if we're looking at the marketing side, I think to be fair to some of these other companies, I don't want to demonize other companies that are maybe leaning heavily into it with marketing because there's different business models, right? There is that, impulse buy kind of company that's really, as a marketing firm, I'm sure they're thinking we just got to get it in front of people. And if they see it and they like it, it's an impulse buy, they move on, right? Well, we are structured completely on the other end of the spectrum from that.
Right.
What we're doing is at point of sale, that is the beginning of a partnership.
Right.
That's the beginning of a relationship that's going to hopefully and has proven to last for years and even decades. It is not a one and done.
These are complex solutions.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we've never had a product where somebody clicks to buy
off the
and
shelf,
then we ship them something.
Yeah.
I mean, these are tailored, complex, and which is why there will always be human to human, point to point.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this all day. VoIP and telephony in general is not an off-the-shelf solution if you really want it to work right. It's complicated. The idea that we would try to sell so impersonally and try to create a relationship so impersonally, it's just off the table for us.
Yep.
Where other companies, look, I could see it, right? And then maybe let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That's where all these people that you're seeing are coming from. They're like, look, if you just want to get some stuff out there, here's the way you write these prompts and how you get this stuff out there. But that's still, I would say, a small subset of the entire market out there. A lot of companies, most companies, I'd say, need to be thinking about these things. Like, where are our boundaries? What part of our voice are we willing to give up and outsource that to AI. Speaking of outsourcing, that's part of this as well. I did kind of like this line. Basically, let me find it. Oh yeah. Just as Ambit would not outsource our phone support to other companies and countries, we will not outsource or fake our client interactions with AI. It's the same concept. We want people to call in and for them to hear somebody that, one, they know by name,
Absolutely.
but also that sounds like them and, can relate to everything that they're talking about, knows about what they're talking about. We can't outsource those things. We know that. That's what people are doing with AI.
Yeah.
Is they're trying to outsource it for saving a buck, but ultimately you're not going to keep that client.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, your bottom line, if you look at it from a business standpoint, how do you become more efficient, like Jesse was saying? Mm-hmm. How do you increase your revenues? How do you increase your margins? Well, one of those is decreasing payroll. Mm-hmm. And if you can replace people with an AI bot, now we think it's getting out of hand. But yeah, I think, like you said, just looking at it from a bottom line perspective, we can't do that. So.
Yeah, it's been a fun conversation to dive into, right? I mean, I think you're talking about how do you become more efficient in the way that companies look at that. And coming from the manufacturing world and coming from the space of automation, that's what we did was how can we reduce the number of people in our organization and make it more efficient and repeatable? And it's just that's not the kind of business that we're trying to build. And that's why this conversation has been so fun to really say, okay, what is unique about the way that we're trying to do things? What is really important when we look at who our customers are and the kind of solutions that we're providing. Like you said, they're tailored. These are not things that are just off the shelf, repeatable. You can just continue to stamp out the same thing over and over again. You've got to have those human expertise involved in that whole process.
And I think it's probably good to mention as well that one of the results of defining these things in a policy, as we've talked about, is hopefully our people feel more freed up to use AI as a part of their workday, because they're not thinking like, oh, I don't know if this is appropriate, or I don't know if somebody's going to look down on this. Because, I mean, we all know we've put stuff into AI. It's like, this feels a little icky. I don't know. Is this right? And I don't even know that a lot of people have even vocalized that. But I know that I've felt it before.
For sure.
Because it's so good. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the first things we started doing with AI, I'm sure everybody has done something like this, but like, write me a poem in the style of, this. And it's so good.
Right.
That's the problem. It's so good and it makes you feel icky. So taking the ickiness out of it and allowing people to say, look, for all of these purposes over here, AI is incredible. Some of the things we've talked about, repetitive tasks.
Right.
It's incredible at those. Stuff that would be mind-numbing to a human, it can just crank them out.
For sure.
And that's that force multiplier.
That's right.
Yeah.
Iterations of what you've already done and iterations of what other people have already done. Code generation, for software. I mean, there's dangers and pitfalls there as well. But all these technical aspects, it is incredible at. I mean, the list could go on and on. But when you can isolate those things, say, all right, it's great at handling information.
Yep.
It's great at informing humans, but it should not be impersonating or composing on behalf of humans. Mm-hmm. And when you start to really divide those things out, I think it frees us up to say, all right, let's go, right? Let's dive in. Let's get some stuff done with this in mind.
It's really good. I think there's a lot of grayness in the ickiness. When you brought up this conversation, I was like, this is tough to articulate, and it just feels really gray. And I think that's why I'm so impressed with this document. And I think we want to share at least a version of this with whoever wants it, and that Like, this is the conversation we're having. This is in the effort to bring transparency and clarity. I think you brought a lot of clarity with what you accomplished with this, and I was very impressed with it. And like, I may not even like all of it, but at the end of the day, I loved it. I loved it, and because it gets to what we're really after here, and it's not compromising our customer relationships, not compromising integrity. Data was the other thing, like not releasing our customers' data into the AI models. Like that's another thing that we've covered in here. We didn't really talk about it, but
it goes not as interesting as some maybe the other topics.
But it is still like it's part of the AI conversation, and like we're not even going to, give up some of our customer data into these AI engines because we want to protect those relationships and the integrity of those relationships.
Yeah, one other thing I thought would be cool to talk through. Because you mentioned it's kind of hard to articulate, right? One of the things we've done is tried to reduce these down, and we have 7 principles. And look, on all of this is an ongoing process, right? Part of what we want to do in opening this up in a discussion on the podcast is hear from our clients, hear from the market. Do you agree with this? I'm sure there's going to be people who don't agree with it because I've already heard it. But if you don't agree with it, I'd like to know why.
At least ask the question.
Right.
I don't see people asking the question, which is why.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, let's just look at some of these principles. The first one on here: real people deserve real people. I mean, we can echo that, right?
I think we have.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we already do, right? Whether it's customer service or solving problems for clients, our sales process, every step of the way, it's real people interacting with real people. Yeah. And yeah, the honesty and integrity part of it. We talk about this all the time. Part of being honest is like real people make real mistakes. I mean, to be fair, AI makes mistakes all the time.
Yeah, makes a lot of them, yeah.
But I'd rather us make the mistake than AI passing it off as a human mistake. Make it honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like that one a lot. We've kind of hinted on this second one. AI should inform, not compose. Again, the compose is where it gets deceptive, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have to define what composes. How much of something is saying that the AI composed it instead of a human composing it.
Yeah.
I think that's open to interpretation. Feel free to jump in on any of this you want. But the next one, AI should assist, not replace. I mean, maybe this is something we should dive into, the replacement part of it. I mean, that's a real fear for us as a technology company, that we would lose our human edge by just constantly outsourcing our expertise and communication to an AI bot.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the assistance, this is what David was mentioning, that forced multiplier idea.
Right.
Well, how can I be more efficient without cutting my payroll? I can make my people who are using the AI to be more efficient with the use of it.
Right. Yep.
And then I can get more done and accomplished because they're using these tools that are helping them to be more productive. So I'm getting more work done with the same amount of people that I had before. So it's that assistance piece and that force multiplier idea that I'm not just trying to reduce people, but I'm trying to help make my people even more effective than they already are. You want to take competent people and empower them further.
Yes.
Not make incompetent people, try and make them not make mistakes. So that's what we're going for, right? There's this whole idea of let's enable our people who are already competent to be even that much more further along and efficient in what they're doing.
I know we're running short on time, but I do want to tell you a quick funny story I heard the other day about this. And this goes right along with that. I was talking to a young man who's in college right now, and I won't say his name. But him and his friend are using AI in college so much to do their work for them that they were like, we need to stop. this is ridiculous. We're not learning anything.
Yeah, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are
Why?
we here
Yeah.
and wasting all this money? We're not learning anything. We're just getting the work done at light speed.
I'm glad I didn't have AI
Oh,
when I was in college.
Oh,
Same
for sure.
here.
I didn't finish college, but I wouldn't have anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe I would have, and I got a master's degree that I couldn't tell you anything about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and to pull back the curtains a little bit, internally, we've tried to create AI bots that can help with our troubleshooting process.
Yeah.
We failed. I mean, I would say we have worked a decent amount of put a decent amount of effort into having AI bots that can pull from a lot of different resources within telecom and help us troubleshoot client issues. It is pretty bad at it, actually.
Yeah. Why? Why do you feel like we failed at some of those things? Like, what was the thing that said, man, this wasn't successful for us?
Well, to me, I feel like it's because every one of our clients is so unique
Yeah.
in their networks and how they've set things up. And, you know all about our clients, and somebody who's talking to them has been on site and seen that equipment and done all those things. You know, who knows? In a year from now, 2 years from now, we might be having a different conversation where it's like, actually, these AI bots are really good
Sure.
at helping us.
Sure.
And that would be a great thing to declare as well, because what we'd be able to do is we'd provide faster service to our clients, fixing their issues, and that would be a win. But at no point would we be impersonating, would say, all right, we send this AI response to you and act like it's one of our help desk people. No, it's a troubleshooting tool, and it does some things okay at suggesting certain things, but overall, it just doesn't seem to get the context of what's happening for each individual client.
Yeah.
Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of like touches on and gets me to one of probably my favorite part of the policy, which is about the responsibility of the people of the
Yes.
company. Like, we use AI, and that's awesome. We use it as a tool for being more efficient, for searching for a broader scope of answers,
Right.
and some troubleshooting that we're doing. Defining outlines when we get ready to write a technical manual. Those things it's great for. But at the end of the day, part of this policy says that what's most important is that we're not absolving our people of the responsibility of the solution. It's our responsibility at the end of the day to make sure that whatever tool we're using, whether that's AI or anything else, that we are ultimately being responsible for the solution that we give to the customer, and that they're getting that from us. So, at no point will it ever be, oh man, well, AI screwed that up. No, it's going to be who was using AI or that tool to bring that solution. And so you mentioned, a response by the help desk on trying to help a customer troubleshoot an issue. Like, that's not what we're about here at Ambit. We want to make sure that real people are giving those responses, and that we're ultimately being responsible for the solutions that we deliver, whether that's on a sales side, crafting that solution, or a support side in maintaining that solution and making sure that we get issues resolved.
Yep.
And that responsibility portion is so important because AI hallucinates all the time.
Sometimes hilariously.
Yeah, Steven and I were working on something the other day, and he's like, oh, it can read this PDF. I'm going to get it to do some math. We're talking like subtraction or addition.
Addition, yeah,
Right.
simple addition. I
Right.
wanted to know like the cost of these like 4 line items, and I was like, well, let's just play with it and see if it can do it.
And it gave like how it gives a huge paragraph of this is what I'm doing, listed out all the line items and just did the math completely wrong.
3 times.
3 times. It was shocking.
It was.
And all those things are going to improve over
Right.
time, but we have to know that can happen at any point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I do think that's one of the reasons why some companies have been slow to implement AI agents. If we're not familiar with the idea of an AI agent is not just a prompt and response then to be used by a human. It actually can make an action within a software as a result of its own processing. There's probably a better definition that you could give, but you're allowing the agent to actually make decisions and act on those decisions. We're seeing a pretty slow, I would say, adoption by large companies to do that because of the hallucination issue. That's kind of hard to say, but yeah, it's a problem.
Well, it's a great conversation, and it's why we wanted to have it on camera and record it, because I mean, I think these are a little bit challenging questions. It did feel like a gray area. It can feel like a gray area, and I think like Ryan is leading the charge in that. Let's try to shed some light on this, and let's just, while everybody's jumping all in and using all the positive benefits from AI, like let's take a step back and let's slow it down just a little bit, and not get the wagon in front of the horse or whatever. And but yeah, great conversation, guys.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks.